Everyone, we are live for Tuesday Talks. Now, Tuesday Talks is always about getting to know an individual, finding out what makes them tick, what do they care about, and how their career reflects that. Now, today we have an amazing guest called Kozy Clark. Now, Kozy is a body positive health coach. She has lived on a diet her whole life and decided that she needed a little bit more and wanted always her own business. So when it came to that, so she started a product that helped her to start to lose the weight. Now Kozy is helping other women lose weight and by encouraging them to actually break up with their diet and love their body and a little bit more as well. Let's bring Kozy on and hear all about this. And I love this story. So let me just bring that on. I see you there, Kozy. Just give me a minute and I'll bring you up. Hi, Kozy. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing amazing. Thank you very much for taking the time out and jumping on for this Tuesday Talks.
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Now, I've done a short introduction for you already, but you're the best person to do it justice. So expand on it a little bit more. So let us know who you are for people who are joining us or watching this later on as well. Who you are, what you do, and the biggest question that everybody has on their mind on Tuesday Talks is, why do you do it?
Of course. So, my name is Cozy. I'm a body positivity health coach. And essentially, what I do is I help break diet culture by helping women break up their diet so they can become healthier. Because what happened was I have essentially lived on a diet my whole life. My mom was on a diet. Actually, this totally came to me recently, is I always felt like my mom was on a diet. And then I picked up on that, and she struggled with her weight her whole life. She felt like she would do challenges with my aunt, and if she lost, she felt sorry for herself. She felt like she wasn't worthy enough. She didn't feel like she was good enough. She didn't understand why her body didn't work the way that she thought it was. Well, then I started to take on that same exact culture, because when it comes to your children, they do exactly the same thing as you do. So it starts out with, well, I have to be on a diet, even though I didn't have to be on a diet. So I probably started, I say 13, but I really think it started around the age of 10. Like, my parents would be on a diet and they'd go for a walk, and I'd be like, I'm on a diet too. And I'd go for a walk rather than like focusing on just doing healthy things and eating healthy foods. And I would say also, like, we don't really talk about what healthy is.
Mm,
I came from, my family is German, of German descent mostly, and we would eat heavy things like gravies and stuff, and we didn't really just eat three item foods where it was like a fruit, vegetable, or a vegetable, meat, and rice, or a vegetable, meat, and a carbohydrate. We ate things with lots of fat in them, and we ate things with lots of sugar in them. Insert processed food culture. So when I was 13 years old, my mom passed away, and I was actually an emotional eater and didn't even know it. So I did see a therapist for a short period of time, and but I I I was born in the late 70s, I was born in the late 70s. And growing up, you didn't talk about your feelings, because if you talked about your feelings, then you were weak. If you cried, that it would be, well, let me give you something to cry about. And so I picked up on the smashing my feelings down, not crying, because if you cried, you were considered weak. And my mom died when I was 13, and I had no idea how to deal with those feelings. So, how I dealt with my feelings was I drank 2 to 3 milkshakes a day,
wow.
which is a lot. I mean, imagine, as a 13-year-old, how many calories I was intaking without even realizing it. And then, so that's how I dealt with my feelings. I saw a therapist for a very short period of time, but I was fake happy, and I was like, I'm fine, everything's fine, I don't need your services, I'm okay. And so I kind of just went through life. I would be on a yo yo diet. I lost a lot of weight when I was 16 years old. And then after that, I'd get comfortable. I'd stop exercising. I wouldn't be eating as healthy. Probably like 99% of America in itself, or maybe not that much. Probably more like, because there's a few that they've, really refined it. So probably 90% who they go on a diet, they lose the weight, and then they go back to what they were doing before because they didn't make any lifestyle continuous changes.
Mm.
And then it would just happen all over again. So then when I was 18 years old, I'd start going for walks, I'd start eating healthier, I'd cut back on the amount of ice cream that I was eating, and I'd lose weight again. And then I'd gain it all back again, and then I'd lose weight again. Well, I have two kids, and I'm a wife. So I was kind of just going through life pretending to be fake happy. And it really got bad as I got into closer to my 40s. Like, I thought, wow, is this what life is supposed to be like? So I reached out to my life coach and I started working with her so that I could find it something inside, because I felt like something wasn't right. I always wanted to own my own business, and I felt like I was made for something more than just living a humdrum life where I felt
Mm.
numb and not emotionally attached to anything. Like, I wanted to be present and available for my kids and present, and I would wanted to feel good about going to work. I wanted to feel good and enjoy life again. And so what that led me to is, it first started, um, I started taking care of my health and eating better and exercising. Um, but it was like emotions on the inside. I never really dealt with my mom passing away. And then my stepmother was not a very nice person to me. And I had she was passed away 6 years ago, and I still she was on my mind all the time. She was taking up space in my life, and she was taking up space in my journey. And I finally was able to like let that go, feel into my emotions, and be okay with crying and knowing how to identify my feelings and my emotions. So what that led to was kind of health journey, where I thought, well, what I want to do is be a health coach, where I help people lose weight and I help people um, you know, starve themselves. I didn't quite get it yet. And I've evolved. I've been doing this for 4 years. And as I kept watching, I noticed that people didn't love who they were.
Mm.
They would exercise because it was a punishment. They would starve themselves and eat 1,000 calories a day because that's how they'd lose weight. They wouldn't treat their insides with love and kindness and support. And it made me think that I wanted to delve deeper into, I still wanted, because there is a lot of, when people talk about body positivity, it's like they're like, oh, you're promoting obesity. And that's not the case. I wanted to be still loving your body, which is what my program is about. My program is about loving your body at the start of your journey, no matter what size and shape you are, and exercising for your body type, and stop comparing yourself to others, and just loving the skin you're in, while incorporating in a slow fashion, in a unoverwhelming, non-overwhelming fashion of
Mhm.
getting healthy while you're doing it. So instead of, you have to do all of these things and strict dieting and feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to go on this diet, and you quit in 5 days. Instead, it's starting the program and incorporating healthy habits as you go along. And while you're incorporating those healthy habits, you're learning how to love the skin you're in, you're learning how to love yourself, and um, overcoming any passage you've had where it's really, hurting your emotional well-being, and rather than eating your feelings. Because I do feel like anybody who is obese, there is a direct correlation
Mhm.
to, you most likely are eating your feelings. And if you don't deal with that inside, you're going to be on a yo-yo diet and continue yo-yo diet your whole entire life.
Mm. Really love that share, and thank you very much for being so vulnerable as well in terms of sharing the story of how it started for you, and and and
and the trauma that is there, that we pick up, that obviously whilst we're growing up we don't realize it. And I love the fact that you also shared that, growing up at a time where, we are told you're not able to express your feelings, is certainly shows up later on in the life, because all that bottled up emotions has to go somewhere, right? And the body is looking to express that somehow. And if you're not doing it, you and hence the name of comfort food, you end up finding comfort in food. And and then before you know it, it becomes a very unhealthy habit, right? And and I love also the fact that you mentioned, finding a way to then love yourself first, and finding also with your program they are also able to then find, what is that they are eating away within them, right? What trauma is that? What pain is that? What part is that? Because they were not like this to begin with. It is an accumulation of over time, right? And that means there was something that happened somewhere at a time, and we just didn't, we took an unconscious decision and went along with it because we felt comfortable with it, and then we carried on and carried on. Now, without realizing, it just became the norm, and now we are like, oh, hang on a minute, what's happening here? I love life, I love this, I want to do all these things, but I am now stuck with a yo-yo diet. I'm losing, I'm gaining, I'm excited, I'm sad. What is happening, right? So it's all there, and I love that you've encapsulated it and captured it from your own journey, and now you're able to help others go through and be better, so they don't have to actually experience how it was for yourself, but you're there to guide them through it. Who you would know what's coming in the next turning point, and you're preparing them for that next turning point, preparing them for the next journey, and they're moving along. And then at one point, obviously, they will be their ideal self. That's the word I like to use quite often, like, because I yo-yo with myself as well in the health journey. So I'm not perfect. I yo-yo a lot. But recently I started saying with myself was like, okay, that the mindset shift that I started using was, I want to be my ideal self. What was my ideal self? My ideal self was when I was actually from the age of 13 to the age of 18, right? That was my ideal self. I actually loved life that time. I was healthy, I was fit, I was active, everything. For me, I used to always say, yeah, after 25, I was just downhill. I was going downhill, because I was slower, I was doing less activities, I was, everything was less and less and less. And before you know it, I was like, oh, what's happening here? I'm feeling different now. And to feel back to where you want to feel, you start doing other things, and before you know, realize you're yo-yoing with everything, right? Because you want to go back to where you are, and then you start saying, I need to lose this, I need to lose that. Why you want to lose? You don't want to lose. The word lose is already a negative connotation, and
Mm-hmm.
because you're saying you want to lose, you're not passionate about what you want to gain, right? What would you gain if you lose that? So my thing was like, okay, I want to be my ideal self. What does my ideal self look like? It looks like this. It represents this. Would I be happy if I feel that way? Yes, I would be very happy if I feel that way. Okay, how does that feel? Okay, so for me, it was like intermittent fasting. So I started doing intermittent fasting. I realized that I was already doing that intermittent fasting due to places of work that I was hanging out with. Sometimes I won't get to eat properly at a time, and then I will just pick up some junk on the way back home. So then I was like, okay, if I'm waiting that long to eat, why not I just do consciously intermittent fasting? So I know I'll make sure I fast all the way until I'm home now. I don't need to pick it up. If I'm feeling it, I'm like, okay, I'm heading home. I'll have a proper meal when I get home, right? So I started doing those things, and before I know it, my body just got used to it. So I did not get hungry a lot because it knew that he will eat at this time already now, right? So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
craving for anything. I'm not. So he got used to it, and then I suddenly also realized that my portions became smaller. Like I could not eat a lot before. I could eat like a big portions, and I'm like, now I take the same portion that I would have eaten, I don't know, let's say 7 8 months ago, and then if somebody puts that in front of me, I'll look at it, I'm like, wow, that's a lot, because my portions are now so small. And then if I have that old portion of me that old Zishan would have eaten, my stomach hurts and I feel sick. Right? And I'm like, what's
Right.
happened here? Yeah. So, and I love that you're taking people through that journey of, because it's a transformation that you have to decide that you want to go through, right? And you obviously, a lot of us people need that help. I was lucky enough that I have a mindset. I am also a mindset advocate, so I was able to just train myself and pay attention to things that are happening, be observant, and you know pay attention to changes that were happening, and be aware and make those conscious decisions, and that's what's helping now. But there are a lot of us who are stuck in that routine that we wake up, go to work, eat junk, you know and then come home, eat again, and don't do anything, sit in front of a TV. Nothing wrong with that. But if you just eaten and sat in front of the TV, what's going to happen to that? You know?
Mhm.
So it's like a whole pattern that you have to, obviously, you just have to. For me, it was like, okay, what was I doing when I was at that age? I was actually not sitting down a lot. I was active. I was out. I was doing this. I was running around. I was hanging out with friends. I was doing something. And what's happening now? I'm not doing a lot. I mean, I'm doing something, but I'm not doing a lot. And hence, that not doing a lot is catching up.
So what did you notice when it came to your, like, when you started making those changes consciously, because I think that's important. What did you notice, like, was the end result with your body, with your mind?
I think in the beginning, it wasn't that easy. So yeah, it was tough because I I was feeling hungry a lot. I was tired a lot, because it was a sudden change. Um, but after once I got through over it, so you have to go over to the other side of that pain, because you do get that little burst of uncertainty and uncomfortableness where I was like, what the hell am I doing? I'm feeling dizzy, I'm gonna fall and all that stuff. But I'm like, no, no, no. So I had to push myself. But when I was on the other side, it's a case of I felt lighter and energetic at the same time as well. So I was energetic and my mind was a lot fresher to say, right? Because I had energy, I was also fresher in my mind. I wasn't feeling foggy. I wasn't feeling tired. I wasn't feeling like, oh, what did I come in this room for? Like I was quite often feeling like now and then. I'm like, oh, I wanted to pick something up, and I'm like, what was that? Yeah, so it wasn't happening those things, and me thinking, oh yeah, yeah, it's coming with age, but like, no, it's not coming with the age. It's because of my habits. Then once I
Mm-hmm.
was on the other side, I was like, oh, I haven't experienced any of these things. I've got a lot more energy. I can remember things a lot more now, and things are a lot more exciting. I'm excited about things happening.
Nice. That's exciting. I think I like how you notice too. I think part of the thing that happens with a lot of people is we become disconnected
Mm,
from our body. We don't really listen to our body, whether or not we're really hungry or if we're full. And I really like how you said now, before when you started, you ate larger portions, but if you eat larger portions now, you're full and over. You feel not so healthy. You don't feel so good. You feel overstuffed and um, I don't know, gross. I don't know how to
yeah,
say
yeah,
it in any other way, but you just feel overstuffed and over gross. And so then what happens is you've noticed that if I overeat, then what happens, this is what happens to me. And you become more in touch and feeling within your body and listening to what it's telling you. Like a lot of people be like, well, I'm hungry and I'm trying to lose weight. And it's like, well, your body is trying to tell you something. Like if your body is this amazing healing being that knows what to do. When it's sick, it heals itself. When it is hungry
mm,
and needs fuel, it knows when it needs to eat. When it's full, it says, hey, I'm full. And so we're so out of touch, like, busy watching TV while we're trying to eat dinner, or busy doing so many other things, hurrying up, being on the run, grabbing something as we go, not planning and figuring out, well, these are some great snacks that I could take instead. And I've done it where like McDonald's is on the way. So you just stop at McDonald's
yeah,
and then you eat it and you're like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have eaten that. I feel really bad and feel gross now. I feel like the grease is just coming out. Um, but I think it's really important. That's one of the things that the principles that I teach in my program is I talk about listening to your body. When it's hungry,
Mm.
be the fuel. And when it's full, stop. Because I also came from a generation where my dad was like, my mom would be like, if you have to eat everything on your plate, even if you're full, you eat
Mm.
everything on your plate. And something that I found once I had kids is not only would I eat everything on my plate, but because I didn't want it to go to waste, I ate everything on their
You're
plate
eating theirs as
too,
well. Yeah.
left over. And then I'd be like, oh, why am I gaining this weight? Hello. Like it's like getting over that mindset of I have to just keep eating because it's available, or if I don't eat it, it's going to go to waste. It goes to waste in your body and it goes to waste in the garbage can. I just learned how to take different smaller portions, and if I didn't, then I realized that I can make, I can just add it to my lunch for the next day. Still tastes the same, and it works out fine. Like there's so many things, like past things that I learned when I was a kid. And I know that when I had a daughter, my first child, I just said to myself, I do not want her to eat everything on her plate. If she says she's full after 2 bites, guess what? She's full.
Yeah, she's full.
And
Yeah.
just listening and noticing that, because now instead of her having these emotional issues where she's trying to eat everything on her plate and being obese because she doesn't know when to stop or listen to her body, she is actually a very healthy teenager. She, looks great for her age and she looks great for her size. And we focus instead of let's exercise to lose weight, we're just exercising because it's fun. And we exercise because let's dance. It doesn't have to be something that's super harsh. Like I do lift weights. I love lifting weights. I love the mindset and the clearness that I get from it. But we don't have to make things like that hard. We
Mm.
don't have to make eating healthy hard. We can choose an apple just as easily as we can choose potato chips. And some people will say, well, the apple is just more expensive. Is it? Because you get 10 apples in a bag of apples and you
Mm.
get a bag of potato chips. The apples would probably last you at least 10 days. That bag of potato chips costs the same exact price and it's probably going to be gone this evening.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's
Few
not
hours is
really,
gone.
yeah, it's not really saving you any money. And I think we have to change how we think about food and how we think about how we're spending our money on food. And I do feel like everything with when it comes to your body, finances, relationships, everything is connected. Like if you have issues with eating, you probably have issues with relationships or speaking your voice or
Mm.
knowing when to say, hey, this doesn't seem right. Or with finances, like if you're eating to make yourself feel better, you're probably spending to make yourself feel better too.
100%, 100%. I love how you connected them all together. That 100%, I'm sure, because if you're looking, people who are, and this is nothing wrong with the people we are, just generalizing. If you are doing these things, there's nothing wrong in that. But obviously, if it's now gone far beyond that, it's affecting your lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
and now that you're at a turning point, it's definitely need some decisions making there, right? You need to take a decision whether you want to continue with this or you want to change and pivot. There's never a dull moment once you pivot, because on the other side you're always going to be excited. You're always going to be growing from where you are, where you actually are now. You know, it's as they say. The only way is always up, right? If you at the bottom of wherever you are, the only way you're going to go is up now if you pivot, right? And that's the only way. If people start thinking that way, that I'm going to pivot, if you're pivoting, you're not going to go further down, because that was that way. Now you're pivoting, you're going the other way, which is going to be back up, because that's the way you came down, right? You're going to go back up. So you're going back up, you're going to find your ideal self, you're going to find the person you're most happy to be, and you're going to find the life that you once enjoyed and once loved. And if you didn't, you will find that you why you didn't love yourself, and then overcome that challenge, overcome that obstacle. Because I also love that it was in your intro as well, that you also get the women to love their bodies, because there must be a point that they, majority of them who are not loving themselves to begin with, to start with from a very earlier on in life, and then they end up having this lifestyle just because of that, because they're not happy with who they are to begin with, and they never actually love themselves, right?
Yeah, and it seems like I've watched coaches who are super fit and they still have the habits of I don't love myself. So I don't
Mm,
think it matters what size you are. You can't there can be self-hatred no matter what, because that's kind of what you were taught. You're taught that, oh, well, you are too skinny or you are too fat, or there's always somebody maybe saying something about your body or who you are as a person. Probably also leads to like the whole perfectionist, I want to please people and help, that turns into, if you don't address that now, it's going to be, even after you lose the weight, you can just lose the weight and it's just weight loss and you just
mm,
feel better because you can move more. But if you don't take care of what's in the inside, you can lose the weight and still dislike the way you look, still dislike the way you feel. And I think it is about living your best life, living it in happiness and on your terms, and being able to take chances that you didn't even think that you could take
mm,
before. Like, it's
mm.
about whole body wellness, not just about focusing on one area and hurry up, lose the weight because I'll feel better. That doesn't make you feel better on the inside. It makes you feel better because you might be carrying less. But if you're not eating enough or you're not exercising to feel good, then it just turns into another hate mechanism rather than a taking care of myself because my body and my mind deserve it.
I really love that, and I'm going to just expand onto that from a different angle. From my experience that I had, obviously growing up, I was very skinny to the point that my bless my dad also used to like give me some kind of like compare me to think, oh, you're so skinny, this and this and this, a guy should look like this, right? And I'm like, I don't know, let's say I'm 14 or 15 by that time, but I was the skinniest in everywhere I went, right? Because at that point I was actually happy being the skinniest. So anywhere when people used to like say, "Oh, you're so skinny," make sure you have got rocks in your pocket so you don't blow away. I was that skinny, right? If there's a strong wind, so and then I was like, "Oh, then I'll just join them." Like, that's a great idea. You help me find some rocks, right? What I did that way, what I did was join them to make fun, and that way I never actually felt that. I was like, oh, that is actually funny, so I'm like taking that as a joke, and I joined them. And then what happened was they weren't able to make further jokes because they just saw me joining in. I didn't see me getting affected by it. And also, if certain places I felt comfortable enough, like it was a group of people, and then few of my friends started bodybuilding and all that stuff, and then when they like, you should join us, you should join. I'm like, nah, I'm okay. There's like, then I would like, I'm not going for a wrestling match or anything like that. So why do I need to do that? Why? It's in my mind that time. I was like I'm healthy enough. I can fast. I can run fast. I can do this. I can walk for miles, and I still walk. I can walk at least 6 to 7 miles in a day with non-stop walking. I can do that. And people who are with me and are fitter and healthier, they after I'll say an hour, they are tired already, and I'm still walking, right? Because I those things are important to me, so I do it. So it works out. I don't need to be showing I have a muscular body so that I can do all these things. You can do all these things without having a muscular body, without having a lean body, whatever that means, right? That's what they like for themselves. Okay, I'm actually happy where I am, and I'm gonna make sure that I use it to full potential with the things that I wanted to do with it. So just looked at that as well for people who go through the time of like being too skinny, whatever they. So I went through the phase where whatever I was eating wasn't actually going in. So nobody knew where was it going. So I was one of that. I was that guy. So my mom, my dad, everybody would look at, he eats. Where does it go? I'm like, well, I don't know. But then I think in hindsight is like that I was so active outside that it just kind of digested it, everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was doing stuff, and and because I walked everywhere, even though I could have taken my motorbike or anything like that, but I still walked everywhere, right? So and that was one of those things that kept me happier and healthier. So I never thought I need to go to gym, I need to do this, I need to flex muscles, and I need to become healthy. So I was already healthy in my mind, right? Even though I didn't appear to look healthy because I was hella skinny. That people will look at me, is he well? Is he ill? Because sometimes my uncles and aunties will come around to visit, and they were like, "Is Zishan okay?" To my parents, they're like, "Yeah, just leave him alone. He's like that." Obviously, when I came into my 30s and all that stuff, it kind of started to fill in and start showing up. And then I was like, okay, but I didn't realize it that okay, now I'm looking a little bit healthier. What is healthy for society? But for me, I was healthy, so maybe I didn't just show it. And this is where I want to also touch upon for people out there, thinking, well, hang on a minute, are we talking about weight loss every time, weight loss and this and that? Well, it goes on the opposite direction as well. So if you're thinking that I need to gain weight, but not really. Are you healthy enough? Are you able to do everything that a second person can? You're fine. You don't need to gain weight.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really, we are so busy comparing ourselves to others, and well, this is what this person looks like. If anybody watches some of my TikToks or my Instagram reels, I talk a lot about how in the 80s, like Kelly Kapowski from Saved by the Bell was like my idol. And, she had these really skinny, thin legs, and I wanted thin, skinny legs like hers. And the pivot for me was I am healthy for me. Like that's what's important. And I can appreciate my thick tree trunk legs. Like they're thick and they're strong and they get me from point A to point B. And so I loved how you were like, my ideal age was between 13 and 18. And that just happened to be, you just screamed in a nutshell why 13 to 18 was so like you felt good, you were active, you were your thin self, you were your ideal self at that time. So I totally understand where you were coming from as to this is why I chose this time frame. Like my 13 to 18, I was nerdy, I was a dork, I was kind of quiet, and so that was not my ideal time, probably mainly because like my issues with my mom. But my ideal time would say would like be my 20s, between 21 and 26. Like I felt fit, I felt great, I felt wonderful, and I was coming out of my shell, and I felt like I started finally accepting who I was and my weirdness, as I call it. I love that. Thank you for sharing, because that correlated completely with I was ideal when I was 13 to 18.
I love that. Thank you also for sharing that. Yeah, exactly. Then what I wanted to bring up for everybody's attention was to look back and see where was your ideal self. Where when we are thinking of this weight loss or weight gain or yo-yoing with our body, what are we picturing in our head? We are picturing an ideal person. Is now that person somebody you're looking on a TV or on a social media somewhere, or yourself, where you used to look like, right? So we all used to look like where we were happy, right? And is that where you're trying to get to, or you're trying to get to that somebody else is their body, they've spent hours and time whatever to get that. If you are able to do that, fantastic, you may be able to get that to there. But if you can, you would never get that there, right?
Right. Well, and I think it's noteworthy to say, like when you were talking about your ideal self between the age of 13 and 18, it wasn't necessarily how thin you were or how you looked. It was about being active,
Yes.
doing this, doing that, and being around friends and being able to be in part of a community. And like if I think about the age of 21 to 26, it wasn't about how thin I was. I mean, yes, I would walk everywhere, I would do things, but it was how I felt accepted. And how can you don't have to be a certain size to recreate that. You can be who you are now without muscles or with muscles or whatever you want to be. You can be that and feel those feelings now. And I think that's where it's really important to kind of hone that in. Like, well, when I was like that, this is how I felt. And this is
Mm-hmm.
how I can feel like that now.
Exactly. I love that. It's a case of bringing that joy and feeling that you once had with yourself and bring get back to now and then recreate that. It may be you might have to obviously pivot to certain places and change certain habits that you've picked up unconsciously, or you fell into this trap of society. That sometimes I like to call it, that you go into this wheel and then you're stuck in that wheel. You don't know how to get out of that now because you're just going around and around and around doing the same thing. And then you're like, hey, somebody help me. And if you're willing and to receive that help, somebody will actually, reach out their hand and pull you out. But you also need to be ready for that help. And I love that you're doing that out there. I know you've got a book coming out sometime soon as well, which you're still working with the title and everything. How can people get to know more about that as well? And what would it cover?
So my book is going to be it's like a body positivity journal. And it has like snippets of where you can read, and then guidelines of steps that you can take in the next 90 days. Each week you start something new to become a healthier version of yourself, and talking about how you can love yourself and different stories of like my past added in. I don't have a name for it, unfortunately, yet. I'm working on that. I feel like it's the final step. It's like the final countdown. My book is going to be coming out June 3rd, but if you want to have access to, there's a couple ways that you can have so that you know when it comes out, because I am going to be offering it for free download on Kindle Unlimited for like 2 days. I'm not sure how long, like 2 or 3 days, where it'll be available that you can download it for free. The best way to stay in touch with me would be to follow me on Instagram at Kozy Clark. I'll be going ahead and sharing when it does come out, and I'm thinking of some creative ways to market it because that's fun. And then you can also join my newsletter by going to www.kozyclark, Kozy Clark, CLARK.com, and you can enroll in my newsletter, and then you'll get up to date. So when my book comes out, you'll be the first to know and be able to download it for free.
I love that. I'm just gonna put a long date here just to let everybody know. So today is May 7th, 2024. And obviously, just in case because this will be released as a podcast version as well, sometimes there's a delay of up to 6, 7, or 8 to longer months. So in case this is coming out after your book is already out, and you're listening to this after June, just head down and look for it on Amazon. I'm sure it'll be under your name, right? So just Google, search Amazon for Kozy Clark.
Yes, and you'll be able to download the downloadable. I prefer, like, if you want to have, it's interactive, so it is better if after the free download time that you actually just purchase the book, and then Amazon will magically sweep it into your house, like those commercials.
I love that. Yeah. I love that, and definitely, I would definitely recommend getting when it comes to these journals and everything. Definitely recommend the paper version, because you can. There's some magic about just writing things down. Although I'm not a big writer myself, but I know now and then when I do sit down and write these things, when I do the workbooks and journal kind of things, they do amazing and wonders. I'm more of speaking my thoughts in to the camera, or just recording voice notes to myself and things like that. I've just moved away from writing. I think the wonders of technology is just like helps me do things quicker. So I'm like, yeah, now I don't need to sit down and write. Whereas I can just like pick up my phone and just record stuff, and then that's it's done. And then, or just voice note it to myself, and there's like millions of voice notes in my voice memo on my iPhone. So it's all there. So, but yeah, I would definitely recommend everybody to look forward to that book and get the paper version, because if you are looking to get yourself any result, paper version is always best, because if it's it's a journal, you need to write it. You're not
That's right.
even unless you get an ebook version and print it out. That might as well just get an authentic book. It'll look nice on your shelf as well.
Yes, it will, and it'll be like the 3 months that I changed my life.
There you go. There you go. See, and so what? Quickly before we'll be wrapping this up shortly as well. So I wanted to also ask, is there something that you want to share with the audience who are listening to us now? And they're thinking of these, they're challenged with their yo-yo diets, or they're thinking that, yeah, they should be doing something about it, or they need to pivot. What should they take as their first step, to just start that journey, and then maybe reach out to you after?
I would say one would be to track your food. I mean, that's
Mm,
probably my least favorite thing to do, but I think
mine too.
tracking, right? Like, because eventually the goal is to, at the end, when once you've lost the weight and you figure out how much food you're eating and if you're eating enough food, then, but the big is to like intuitionally eat, to intuitively eat whatever
Mm,
it is you're eating, listen to your body's cues and clues. But I think first you have to get a framework of writing it down, figuring out how much you're eating, because a lot of my women, they haven't been eating enough their whole lives. They've been stuck on like 1,000 to 1,500 calories. And because they're at that and they've been eating that for so long, their body thinks that's what they need. They don't think it doesn't think that it's in a deficit. So I think the important thing is writing down what you have so you're accountable, so you know how many calories you're eating, and then adjusting from there. And rather than thinking, well, I need to go into calorie deficit, I teach something completely different where if you're already in a calorie deficit, instead of going down further, it's maybe time to increase a little bit
mm.
to put your body back into working the way it should actually work.
Okay, that's quite interesting. And so the other thing I wanted to also check with yourself was like, is there routines, or some people like to call them rituals? Is there something that you follow, or you recommend for others to also check? Obviously, there's various people will try various things, but what's working for you so far?
So far, definitely getting up, and I get up early in the morning. I wake up at 4 o'clock, between 4 and 4:15 a.m. every morning, and that's the time where I get to take time for myself before my family wakes up, before I have to get ready to go wherever I need to go for the day. But really focusing on taking care of myself and my mental health, and exercising is one of those things that I do. I do a lot of journaling. I take 10 minutes and get my kids on the bus, and after they leave, I take 10 minutes and meditate, and just being able to calm my nervous system and um, break free from the emotional stress so I'm not always on edge. But I do really think that investing in your own self, in self-care, and I'm not saying spending millions of dollars on, beauty masks
Mm,
or whatever. You
mm,
can do that if that's what you want, to go get a massage, go get a massage. But I just think it's just taking a moment to reel into who you are and remember who you are, because when you're younger, you know who you are, right? You kind of know who you are. You are a free thinker, but then you kind of keep going in life and things take over where society thinks you should be a certain way, or something else happens where you should be a certain way. And I think it's just really getting to know yourself. That's really important, and remembering the things that you like. I have used this one reference. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie with Julia Roberts. I think she gets married in it, or she doesn't get married. She almost gets married. Runaway Bride with
oh,
Richard
yes,
Gere.
yes.
She almost gets married like 5 or 6 or 7 different times. And she's like the joke of the town. And he's like, well, he goes to interview her, and he's like, what kind of eggs do you like? And she's like, well, right now I like poached eggs, and it's because that's the man that she's getting ready to marry likes poached eggs. It's not really the ones that she likes; it's the ones that everybody else likes. Like the next
Mm.
man, maybe it's scrambled, and he's like, "Well, what kind of eggs do you like?" I think she realizes she don't like eggs at all at the end, because she ends up trying them all, and she just is taking on all the other identities of everybody else. And I think as a mom specifically, or as a parent, you have a tendency to do that. Like I used to be Kozy, and now I'm, Aiden or Erlen's mom, or now I'm,
Mm.
the dog mom, but I'm not me. And you forget about your identity. And I think that's really important when it comes to self-discovery and self-love, is getting to know who you are. and appreciating the things that you do love about yourself or can love about yourself. And if you can't remember what you love about yourself, what would your bestie say? Because your bestie will tell you everything that she loves about you. And that's probably the same reason you should love yourself too.
I love that. That's amazing, share. And obviously, I wanted to also ask how do you now? Obviously, we checked into your rituals and routine, and I love that you brought in the meditation and finding the time to just be with yourself, and finding who you are in those moments. You will find who you are and end up loving yourself more as well. And how do you now get ready for the next day, and how do you like close your day? So this is obviously you're starting your day and getting throughout the day. You're in the 5 a.m. club, so to speak, here already. You know, the question would have been, how do you get through the day without feeling sleepy in the afternoon? If you want to cover that as well. But yeah, how do you then close your day and get ready for the next day?
So I think it's really important that when you eat sugar, that you have a tendency to feel you get this spike of energy, and then it like it peels off. So I try to, even though I am a sugaraholic, I'm a sugar addict, but I try to actually decrease the amount of sugar that I'm eating. I find that if I don't have sugar, I have more energy throughout the day. I'm actually not a coffee drinker. I do start my day off with Thrive, which is like an energy supplement, and that does help get me through the entire day. But I will say I do go to bed early. I go to bed at my son goes to bed at 8:30, and I am in bed by 9. And I I don't even care. Like if I'm not in bed by 9, I am exhausted the next day. So I think I just focus on keeping the same routine every single day. We cook dinner together. We eat around 5 or 6 o'clock, and sometimes 7, depending on what's going on. We do ball games or whatever we need to do. And then, we come home, we wind down, we get showers for the kids, and off to bed we go. Very little television. So it's just real focused on, I know that I'm getting up at 4 a.m. And if I'm going to make that happen, the only way that I can make that happen is if I go to bed at a decent hour and get some maximum sleep. And I know some people will be like, but that's my time to like decompress. But I get up 2 hours before the rest of my family.
Mm.
So
So you
my
got that time there.
decompression,
Yes.
yeah, is at 4 o'clock. So I
Yeah.
get 2 hours essentially to myself. My kids are getting a little bit older. I have a 9-year-old, I have a 17-year-old. My 9-year-old, at first, he'd be like coming down to bug me while I was exercising. So you just make him a part of it. But then as he gets older, they know that it's like my protected time. Like they can come down, they
Mm.
can exercise, but they also know that it's my time to spend time with myself and have calmness in my life.
Yes. Yes, I love that, and going to bed 9 o'clock. I think I there was a time I was also when I used to wake up at 4 a.m. Yeah, by 9:10 would have been the latest that I would have gone to bed. I think going to 9 is a good time because you're getting that 7 hours sleep already, right? So which is ideal sleep time. Which is recommended to have 8 hours and all that stuff, right? Anyway, but depends on yourself, your body. 7 hours sleep, and you're there, and you are getting up. And I love the fact also that you're still getting to do all the family stuff that you need to do all together, having dinners and everything, which is an ideal situation also if you are looking at healthy relationships with food themselves as well, and the kids, because they will see eating together, and you're having a conversation, you're having a meal. So there's a healthy association with food as well. So it's not like I can just eat in being alone somewhere, and then you're not tracking it. Because you mentioned tracking, even though we are tracking calories and all that stuff. This is one way of also tracking if we're having a meal, like a family meal. In our house, there used to be every evening meal. There used to be one meal that we will all have together on the dinner table, and that was usually after the school. So we've come back home from work and everything, and then our daughter will be coming home from school. We'll have the evening meal all together, and in that time, we'll share stories and what's happening and whatnot. Have our vent for whatever, how horrible the day was and everything. Vents done, and then there's no rule about you cannot say this, you cannot say that. No, if you're feeling it, just say it. You vent. We know you're venting it, so you don't really mean everything what you're saying. It's frustration. Let it all out. After that, everybody was light and happy, and just like yourself, she would have gone to bed, and an hour or two later, I would have gone to bed myself as well, and that was it. Even though that was my time, I would have relaxed. Yeah, no TV. We didn't have, even though there was a big screen TV, we never watched it. it was,
We do watch some, like my kids will watch, like my son likes it because he gets the time to like he gets to decompress, and that's his way of decompressing, which is cool. Um, but I feel like sometimes there's just too much. Like we try to limit how much phone time he has, because he's 9, and so I just feel like with kids, something about like their emotions are they get connected to the phone, and like it makes him angry. It's really an odd situation, but I just think they learn everything through you. They learn how to
yeah,
communicate, and when you're sitting at the dinner table communicating, you're creating relationships, and they're going to learn how to do that hopefully with their family too.
yeah. I love that. Thank you very much also for expanding onto this. Yeah, 100%, but in our side, we watch the TV was weekend times and everything. And as she's got a little bit older, then she started watching the evening kids programs and things like that. The only reason was because she started saying, "Oh, my friends are talking about this and this and this. I don't know anything about it. What is that?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah." It's in the evening we'll just like turn it on for a couple of hours and all that stuff so she can watch and de-stress from the school thing. But then she still has that habit. Like now she goes to boarding school and all that stuff. And when she's over for the weekend, I get to hear everything that she wants to vent about for the whole week. I'm like, yeah, okay. It happens in the car when I pick her up all the way home, and then when we having dinner, it's just like, okay, yeah. So I'm quite happy that is there, and then she's gonna take it on board, and wherever she is when she's older, to her families, and that it's an also healthy bonding, and no judgment of like, okay, just carry on, you're just venting it. Once the vent is done, you're relaxed, and you're connected to yourself. Okay, I'm sane now. Okay, that's it, done. All the frustration is that you don't need to bottle it up. And this is the bottle part that I remembered that we started the conversation with yourself, like everything was being bottled up, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah. I mean, I grew up bottling a lot of stuff, and yeah, but bottle explodes one day, and it's ugly the way the bottle explodes one day. It can for me it came up as aggression, uh, bad anger management challenges, because I was just getting angry at random things and no things at certain point of in life, and then I was like, yeah, I don't like this person. But luckily I was aware enough and conscious enough to pay attention to the slight changes that were happening at me. So I was like, yeah, I don't like this person. Who the hell is this now? But then obviously I had to work on myself, work with different various coaches and people, then this self-discovery and all these changes. You would think that fixing yourself would be a little bit of an easier thing, but it's not. It's actually much more harder to come and look at the things right way, because all these habits that you've picked up on from wherever you were young, and you've been picking up on. So all these things, it starts from the age of 5 anyway, that I've come to notice with my research, that once you're 5 years old, you are now consciously picking up everything your parents are doing, your uncles and aunties are doing, and then from 10 onwards, picking up everything everybody else is doing around you, because now you're schooling and all that stuff, right? So everybody, and then you carry on doing that. So all these things are happening to you, and you're a sponge. You taking, and reacting, acting the way people are telling you to act. You lose yourself by that time, and then the real you one day just explodes, right? Whether that's you gaining weight, whether that's anger, whether that's whatever that is, right? And then you're trying to fix that, and people are now looking for, oh, I should get a quick fix. Well, no, you accumulated for how long? Let's say you in your 40s or in your 30s, you try to now pivot. That's a 30 well, that's a 25, 30 years worth of work. It took you that long to realize, and that's accumulated, that's there. You can't have a quick fix. It cannot be fixed in 2 weeks. It may take maybe 5 years if you're, doing it properly and you're paying attention to it, you're working with your coach, you're following everything they're telling you, or a little bit longer if you know you have more. So I also want people to understand that when you start working on yourself, don't look for that magic pill. If somebody is giving you the magic pill, it does not exist. It will take how long it will take for your individual self. Everybody's an individual. Therefore, we have our own baggages, we have our own challenges, and one glove does not fit all. Otherwise, we'd be looking for that one glove everywhere. Where is that one glove? I mean, my hands are small, so I always have to look for kids' gloves. So there you go. So you need to see what glove fits you, and then wear that glove and follow it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to say thank you very much, Kozy, for taking the time out and hopping on to Tuesday Talks. The last question I wanted to ask you, there's a couple of questions that came into my mind. One is, what would you like people to take away from our conversation that we had today? Are there any 3 takeaways that you want them to take away?
I would just say, you don't have to live your life feeling miserable or numb or unhappy. And something that I've learned from my own journey is that I always thought it was everyone else that was the problem. And it turns out I was the problem, which is a super hard pill to swallow. Like if you're pointing the finger and saying, well, they did this and they did that, and they're like this, then it's not them. You.
Mm.
I think
I,
that's
I, I love that. I might use that as a title for this episode as well. It's not them, it's you.
right. It's such a hard, it's so hard to realize that everybody's their own unique person, and everybody has their own past and trauma that they've dealt with, and their perfectionism, sure, they are like that. Like I've dealt with people who are perfectionists, who want to be the best, they want to be noticed, but I can't internalize that. That's not who I am, or that's how I used to be. I can still be the best me that I possibly can be. But once I started to realize that I was internalizing and taking everybody else's thoughts and feelings into consideration, then, and I started to step away from and distance myself from how that was making me feel, I actually found out that I was such a much happier person. Like it really was so hard, such a hard pill to swallow, but it really was me. It wasn't everybody else. Yeah, they have their own things going on, but it was me. Like I was the one who was having the problem. I was the one who was having horrible work relationships and horrible relationships at home and horrible financial relationships. Like it was all connected, and I was blaming it on everybody else, but here it was me. It was me. I had the
I,
problem.
I really love that share. And it's always the bitter medicines that actually help you heal and get better, right? They're always the bitter ones. So yeah, bitter pills to swallow is the one. If it's feeling that, yeah, that's the one who's gonna fix us. Thank you very much for that amazing share. The last thing I wanted to ask you was, before we wrap this up, now that you also have a teenage daughter yourself. Um, what would you have appreciated that now, and you would have appreciated in your teenage years?
I actually, with her, I listen so much better. Like if I wouldn't have gone through this journey, like I have built a relationship with her and have created like this openness that she shares a lot with me, and probably too much sometimes, but I know that's because she trusts me and that we do have this, we have this communication going. And I would say I get to enjoy, like my mom passed away when I was 13, so she wasn't there for
Mm,
things like me watching me get married or have children or go to the prom or all of these certain pieces of my life. And I feel like I just kind of had this realization because my daughter just went to the prom, and I was like enjoying the moment and being present with her while she went to the prom, while we were getting ready to go to the prom, while we were getting dress shopping. Like I was in the moment, and rather than trying to live in my past or live in my future,
mm,
I was able to be present for her and enjoy the moment and not worry about everything else. And I think that if I don't do anything else, I think that's such a huge impact, you know, and like you can be present for your kids and not be living in the past and regretting things that you've done, or you can live in you don't have to live in the future and cause yourself anxiety because all you think about is what could happen. Instead, you're living in the moment and being able to appreciate it and feel into it, just enjoy it.
Mm, I love that. Thank you very much. That's an amazing share. Thank you very much. Everybody who's been watching this Tuesday Talk episode with us throughout, thank you very much. And if you had a aha moment or a spark from our conversation, now it's our responsibility to share this with whoever and whomever may have come to your mind or you think should be watching this. Tag them in this episode so that they can watch it as well, or just share it with them. Because we don't know who's gone to bed or woken up thinking of a better day, and if this episode's created a spark in you, it will create a spark in them as well, and that's all we need to get going and taking that step. Thank you very much, Kozy, for such an amazing shares today, and thank you very much everybody else as well.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.